Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, I'm looking at Dynasty stashes. Make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe if you haven't. As I say every video, 60% of viewers aren't subscribed. Let's change that today. Here's our first player, Samaje Perine. So, I actually haven't talked about Samaje Perine on the channel at all, I don't think. So we're going to do that now. He's had an interesting career. He started in 2017 kind of as a starter, then went into the wilderness for 2 years. And then he went to Cincinnati. And over the 3 years, he was pretty good. In 2020, 63 carries, 301 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4.8 yards carry, and 11 catches for 66 yards. Then in 2021, 55 carries, 246 yards, touchdown, 4.5 yards per carry, and 27 catches for 196 yards and a touchdown. But then in 2022, he got an opportunity to play as the replacement for Joe Mixon in a few games, and he was actually pretty good. 95 carries, 394 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.1 yards a carry, and 38 catches for 287 yards and 4 touchdowns. Pretty effective in that role. Then, as we know, he signed with Denver last offseason, and he had 53 carries, 238 yards and touchdown. 4.5 yards a carry is pretty impressive on that bad offense. And then 50 catches for 55 yards. Very effective in the receiving game last year. Now, how could Perine be relevant? The main thing is that the Broncos added Audric Estime. They added Blake Watson as a UDFA. Could Perine make the team? Maybe. And then he could still get a receiving role like he did last year. He's a proven pass catcher. But he could also be cut and go to another team like the Cowboys. And then he could get an opportunity to workload. At the end of the day, in Dynasty, at the bottom of your roster, we're not looking for value. We're looking for players that could land in a role where you put them in their lineup. And there were times 2 years ago where Latavius Murray ended up in people's lineups at times. There were times last year where Darrell Henderson off the street ended up in people's lineups. Samaje Perine has much more of a track record of success recently than either of those players. So why could the same not happen for him? I have him Dynasty running back 88. Add him to the back of your rosters. It's a player I've overlooked throughout the offseason, but definitely someone that there are worse ways to use the back of your roster. Next up, this is a little different, I would say. A player who, in Jelani Woods, who I really liked coming into the NFL, and as a rookie was good for the Colts. 3rd round pick, and he delivered as a rookie tight end. We can't get spoiled by what other tight ends have shown us. For a rookie tight end, 25 catches, 312 yards, and 3 touchdowns on 40 targets, 1.7 catches, and 20.8 yards per game is a good rookie year for a 3rd round tight end. Unfortunately, he did not deliver in 2023 because he missed the entire season with a hamstring injury. No other tight end really stepped up to fill the void that Woods had. Kylan Granson was their best option, but he's just a guy. We know he's just a guy. He's fine. He's not it. He's not the answer. So, how could Woods be relevant? The Colts failed to add any major tight end competition. We're just running it back with the same players. Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson, Will Mallory. Still the same players, again, competing with Jelani Woods. On the depth chart, Woods is still considered the starter. We don't know how the offense is going to change with Anthony Richardson. Maybe they'll throw to tight end more. Maybe they won't. We really have no idea. Kylan Granson got some targets last year, but maybe it would have been more if it had been Jelani Woods. Now, the only things to keep in mind is that Woods, I think some people would say, well, he's only played 1 season in the NFL. He must be really young. Not actually. He turns 26 in October. So keep that in mind. That's why he doesn't rank higher. It's why we're talking about him on a stashes video and maybe not a sleepers video. Now, in Dynasty, I have Woods at tight end 28. I just think we saw the athleticism coming into the NFL. In the 1 season he played, we saw it. And then we just never saw more because there was a hamstring injury that deleted his entire 2nd year. Maybe the talent is still there. I think this is also one you'll know right away. You'll know right away. There's no waiting. It'll either be in week 1 that Woods plays 60, 70% of the snaps and he's the starter, or he doesn't. And that's it. You can just cut him and move on. It's very simple. You'll know immediately. So I always like players like that. Now, If you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. You get my rankings, access to the Discord, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos, which we'll get to in a bit. Tiers begin at just $6 a month. I like to keep the bottom tier very affordable. With inflation these days, it's cheaper than what you can get at most Starbucks. So I just appreciate everyone who signs up for that. And you get to enjoy the wonderful Discord that we have. I also have Patreon roster reviews available only for patrons, and I don't anticipate that changing anytime soon. I've already done 10 of those. So if you want to get in on those, you have to sign up for the Patreon. And the main reason that I always say at the end of this is that this is independent content. I don't have any corporate backing. I don't even put ads on the channel. There are no ads on this channel. I don't have ad reads. And that's intentional because I'd rather do my own ad read like I'm doing now for myself instead of doing an ad read for someone else. But that doesn't work unless there are people signing up. So I just appreciate everyone who has signed up and everyone who does sign up in the future, because I really don't want to start reading ads or, have corporate backing to the show or anything like that. I really don't want to do that. So I just appreciate everyone so far. Next up, Demarcus Robinson. Now, Robinson has been around forever. He played 6 years on the Chiefs from 2016 to 2021. But in some ways, his best 2 years were actually the last two after he left Kansas City. In 2022, he kind of has a forgotten season in Baltimore. I didn't remember he was in Baltimore. 48 catches for 458 yards, 2 touchdowns on 75 targets. I don't think if you had told me he had 75 targets in 2022, I don't think I would have believed you. 2.8 catches and 26.9 yards a game. Actually kind of impressive in the Ravens offense. And then last year, he had 26 catches, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns on 39 targets, 1.6 catches and 23.2 yards a game. But those stats don't tell the full story, because basically he didn't even play for like the first 8 weeks at all. 0 offensive stats. And then he was a starter over a 6-game stretch from week 12 to week 17. Rams didn't play their main players in week 18. So from week 12 to week 17, he played 60% or more of snaps in those games. And over that period of time, he averaged 3.8 catches and 55.3 yards per game with 4 touchdowns over that 6-game stretch. Now, he signed a 1-year, $4 million fully guaranteed deal this offseason. The Rams added no major wide receivers in free agency or the NFL draft. And as we know, Cooper Kupp is already 31, and they traded Ben Skowronek away to the Texans. I don't really see, there's no options other than Tutu Atwell behind these players. And Tyler Higbee's already hurt. So Colby Parkinson is unproven. So they're really short on alternate options. Now, I have Robinson at wide receiver 87 in my Dynasty ranks. He turns 30 in September. This is not a Dynasty stash for value. But what it is a stash for potential low-key production. Robinson, I'm not going to say he was a league winner, but if you had him at the end of the season, you were probably starting him for that stretch, and he probably helped you in your fantasy playoffs. So why could he not do the same thing at the beginning of this season? Now, my last stash, and this is in the news, right? I mean, maybe not in everyone's news, but if you're really paying attention, you've probably heard about Lucas Krull. Now, I've heard of Lucas Krull. To be honest with you, since before this past week, did I really know much about Lucas Krull? No. But in 2022, he was on the Saints. He did nothing. There were no statistics. Last year, he found his way to the Broncos. He had 8 catches for 95 yards and a touchdown, limited playing time, but he did play a little bit. Now, why are we talking about Lucas Krull? Well, he's receiving praise from Sean Payton, and he's running ahead of Adam Troutman at camp, kind of, and Greg Dulcich. But there are some reasons for that. Greg Dulcich, not healthy yet from foot surgery. We kind of know that Sean Payton doesn't love Greg Dulcich, it seems like. And we also know that Troutman has a core muscle strain, so maybe it's just the injury. But we do hear a constant drumbeat for Krull. He's 6'6", 250 pounds. And the Broncos, I mean, Cortland Sutton doesn't even want to come to camp. Marvin Mims, Sean Payton didn't want to use him last year. The only other guys they have are Josh Reynolds, who is just a guy, and Troy Franklin, 4th-round pick. So maybe there's an opportunity here. Now, I will say, before this week, Krull was unranked in my Dynasty ranks. I hadn't ranked him yet. On my next ranking update, he'll definitely make it in there. I'm going to have to think about where I'm going to rank him. But we know that Sean Payton, of all coaches, runs a meritocracy, right? He cares one of the least about draft capital, contract, whatever. He will play the best player. So if he legitimately thinks that Lucas Krull is the best tight end on his roster, Lucas Krull will be the starter. So we're going to have to see, but it's just someone to consider that I don't think anyone was really talking about until this last week. Now, I have a few Patreon questions, so let's just jump into that. First one, are we all too high on the Jets and Falcons with Rodgers and Cousins both coming back from Achilles injuries? I get it's not the same as running back or wide receiver coming back from the injury, but we still haven't seen a quarterback do it. Still seems like the whole fantasy community is assuming they're pre-injury play. Well, I'm not as worried for a quarterback, but also these are two totally separate situations. Totally separate. The Falcons also have a new coaching staff. They have Michael Penix as a backup. The coaching staff and the replacement of Arthur Smith, I feel like, is actually more important to the rise of the Falcons' weapons than the change in quarterback. The Jets, though, they're a little scarier because it's all on Rodgers. Nothing changed in the coaching staff. Not much changed with the weapons. Yeah, they added Mike Williams, Malachi Corley, but it's not, changing all that much. Overall, though, I'm not too concerned even with the Jets because Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are elite players in a vacuum. They're elite. And I'm not really in on the other Jets players. I'm not drafting Mike Williams. So I'm not that concerned, but maybe. I mean, it depends on how high you are. Now, this is kind of in with that. What are your expectations for Garrett Wilson this year? Seems like he's not getting as much hype as last year. I must have missed the lack of hype, if I'm being honest with you, because I think people are insanely hyped on Wilson. I think he'll be a solid wide receiver one. He had 147 targets in 2022 and 168 targets in 2023. Players like that who earn that type of elite, high-end volume, they almost always hit to be top 5 wide receivers at some point. It's very hard to have 168 targets and be as bad as Garrett Wilson was in 2023. That's usually not Garrett Wilson's fault. As we know, targets are earned. Earning targets is one of the best ways to tell which wide receivers are great and which ones are not. So, yeah, I have missed the lack of hype. I think there is plenty of hype, and I agree with the hype. I have Garrett Wilson, I believe, ranked right in line with everyone else. I have him wide receiver 8 in redraft, pretty much right in with everyone else. Are you a supporter of the third round reversal for redraft leagues? And I heard this asked on a recent big name show. Honestly, it doesn't really matter to me. I think that fairness graphs or value-based drafting graphs show that third round reversal is slightly more fair than snake in most redraft formats. It seems like the regular snake gives too much of an advantage to the first overall pick, maybe the first couple, and third round reversal evens that out a little. I guess I'm slightly in favor of it then. I think it's more fair. Honestly, though, I don't even like redraft all that much anymore. Dynasty is much more fun. I don't think I'm going to be returning to play redraft outside of Scott Fishbowl anytime soon. I don't think, we're not going to get any redraft content on this channel. We will get maybe some start sit because that's universal and everyone has to do it in lineup leagues. But redraft content, I don't know. So honestly, I haven't really thought about it that much. But is my main answer to this. In a startup, 12-team start 9 Superflex, it's half PPR, but 1.510 in premium. What tight ends outside the top 12 would you target for flex plays? That could be sneaky PPR plays. I mean, I don't know. My current top 12, Laporta, McBride, Bowers, Kincaid, Pitts, Andrews, Hawk, Kittle, Kelsey, Njoku, Ingram, and Ferguson. So the guys outside of that could sneak in are Dallas Goedert because he's downgraded because he's older. Pat Freiermuth, I don't mind the cost. Tucker Kraft at cost because he's cheap. And Benson not long-term if you're willing to wait, but I don't know if he's going to sneak in there this year. Otherwise, that lower range of tight ends doesn't really excite me, and I'm not expecting much out of them. Now, if you like the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, the best way to support the YouTube channel is to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. Dynasty, redraft, rookie, start sit, and more. And every sign up helps support the independent content that I'm doing here. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all